What is going on, the Catch fam? It is Steven here with the must-start wide receivers of the week. If you do not have Tyreek Hill on your team, you are always looking for which receiver to start for your given team that week. And in this video, we're going to try to do our best to stay away from those top five guys like the Tyreek Hills, Devontae Adams, Justin Jeffersons, DeAndre Hopkins, because obviously you're going to put those in your lineups week to week. It's not really much of a discovery to figure out that those guys are going to be must starts, right? But getting right into it, our first guy, the guy who's probably closest to a top five receiver, Allen Robinson. He's on my fantasy team as well. So if you guys own shares of Allen Robinson, I can understand why you'd have some hesitancy about, being so confident plugging him in week to week. He kind of put up a skunker against the LA Rams, but guys, he was going up against Jalen Ramsey every play, so that's not a huge surprise. Andy Dalton was under duress all game, right? Allen Robinson could barely get off the line of scrimmage without Andy Dalton getting sacked or throwing a pick already, right? So I think Allen Robinson's in a really good situation going up against the Bengals this week. He's going to have a home crowd behind him. Andy Dalton's going to be on a little bit of a revenge tour, and this is still the primary pass catching receiver for the Chicago Bears. And I just think it's going to be a totally different world, right? Not having to deal with the LA Rams defense, which presents a absolute nightmare matchup to any receiver, is going to be a huge boon to Allen Robinson. I'm projecting that he gets closer to 100 yards with a touchdown. I do think it's going to be a big week for Allen Robinson, and I am confident in putting him in my starting lineup, right, guys? So going right down the line, too, we got Deontay Johnson. One of my favorite receivers coming into the season. I wanted him. I took him on as many mock drafts as I possibly could. You guys probably remember that. But Deontay Johnson is, last year he was on a 163 target pace. He started this season off just the same, right? Had 10 targets, got a touchdown, had some, I think he had 6 or 7 catches. I mean, looked really, really good. Looked just as elusive as he was last year, right? Got right back into rhythm with Ben Roethlisberger. Obviously, Chase Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster, all those guys are still there, but it is still Deontay Johnson's show in terms of targets. And he's going up against the Las Vegas Raiders this week, which, wow, I mean, they had a pretty crazy win up against the Baltimore Ravens, but that defense was still shaky. Receivers were able to do things against this defense. And I'm projecting a way better matchup because the Buffalo Bills, whereas they're not the greatest fantasy football defense to have, I mean, they're not terrible, right? They can definitely do good things for your fantasy football team, but the Buffalo Bills are a very sturdy football team on defense and can lock down any offense any given week, right? And make any offense look relatively mediocre. So with Deontay Johnson and Ben Roethlisberger going up against the Raiders, I'm projecting another really big week for this guy, close to 10 targets. I mean, what more can you ask for out of receiver week to week? Mike Williams, the LA Chargers. Me and John talked about it when we went over the AFC West. Is this finally the year that Mike Williams is a sleeper that ends up reaching his full potential, right? So hopefully he doesn't get hurt because that's definitely been a part of his whole career. But I think Mike Williams is showing something that he never did before, which is consistency in terms of his target share. It does seem like this offense is really starting to funnel targets to him. He had a monster game against the Washington football team's defense. Showed like he was all over the place. He got a touchdown. He was getting the underneath routes. He was getting the intermediate routes. I mean, he could do it all. And we all know that he can do the deep stuff, the spectacular catches. But the fact that he is showing the flexibility in his route running shows that he has matured a ton at receiver. And the fact that Justin Herbert has been targeting him that much shows me that he is going to be the guy that steps out on this Chargers offense outside of Keenan Allen, because somebody has to do it. We talked about it all off season. Who is it going to be, right? Because this offense, there's so much conviction in it being good. Well, it's Mike Williams, guys, and he's going up against the Dallas Cowboys pass defense, which just got torched by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm not necessarily saying that the Chargers are going to come out there and have, close to 40 points on them like the Buccaneers did, but I do think the Chargers are going to have a lot of success, a lot more success than they did against the Washington football team as well. And I think Mike Williams is going to reap a serious benefit out of that too. Deebo Samuel, this hurts, guys, to put him on my must starts, because the thing about Deebo Samuel is, being a Brandon Ayuk fan, it's kind of like seeing somebody that has stolen your thunder, right? Because Deebo Samuel has taken over Brandon Ayuk's role. Brandon Ayuk has been kind of delegated. He might not even play week 2. Nobody really knows what's going on, whether it's character issues or whether it is that injury that's been nagging him over the preseason. Your guess is as good as mine. But what we do know, based off of past performances and past seasons, is that Deebo Samuel is a tremendous athlete. And when he's healthy, this guy is an absolute beast in terms of yak, and he has great chemistry with Jimmy Garoppolo. So as long as Jimmy Garoppolo is around, Deebo Samuel is going to do great things. But this thing too is, I mean, he cooked the Detroit Lions defense, which is pretty bad. But I think he's going up against another pretty favorable matchup with the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles, don't get me wrong, they played great against Atlanta Falcons. They did a good job at honing in on Calvin Ridley, but I think the offensive scheme, the quarterback, everything is going to be a hell of a lot improved in San Francisco. I think Kyle Shanahan's going to do a really good job at exploiting this Philadelphia Eagles defense and getting the ball into playmakers' hands, such as Deebo Samuel. So I look to a really good week out of Deebo. I think he's going to have himself another day. I would say he's probably not going to have a day close to the Detroit Lions game, but he's still going to be very productive, over 10 plus fantasy points for sure. I hope it's not too much though, with that said, because I am playing against some fantasy football. So again, this hurts kind of double weighing me, putting him on my must starts. Jamar Chase, this one doesn't hurt as much because he is on my team. Jamar Chase absolutely lit up the Minnesota Vikings in week 1. He looked like the absolute superstar that we saw coming out of LSU. I don't even really want to harp on it too much because I've talked kind of ever since all the week 1 games ended. I've talked so much about how much of a surprise he was. And I think everybody's kind of singing the same tune. But what we do have to realize is that Jamar Chase is going to be a massive part of this offense's focus week to week, whether it's going to be getting him screens, getting him short slants, getting him deep plays too. I mean, Jamar Chase can do any single route in the playbook, and he has great chemistry with Joe Burrow. And he was also the number 1 focus in terms of who was getting the targets on the Cincinnati Bengals team. Led the team in targets week 1, and he turned those into catches too. He wasn't just empty targets such as DJ Chark in week 1, right? And this guy also burnt corners like Rashawn Breeland, Patrick Peterson, pretty good corners, right? And going up against the Chicago Bears defense that just got absolutely lit the hell up against the LA Rams. And while the LA Rams are a hell of a lot better football team than the Cincinnati Bengals, I do think Jamar Chase is going to get the chance to get deep on these guys and make one of his really fancy catches with one of those cool dances he does in the end zone, right, guys? So Jamar Chase is definitely a must start for me if you've got him on your team. And really a guy that's going to continue to be in that must start category, I think, as well. Devonta Smith, another rookie, guys, coming from Alabama. This guy was definitely the most fundamentally sound receiver I felt coming out of the draft, but he showed what he can do week 1, right? With Jalen Hurts, they had good chemistry. It was like they were just still at Alabama together, right? But he made that Atlanta Falcons defense look pretty silly. And the fact is that he's going up against this 49ers defense, which I put a lot of stock in. I thought that they were going to be really good. And I'm not necessarily taking too much away from that. I do think this is still a good defense, but the weaker part of this defense is for sure on the back half. That secondary is weak. They don't have Jason Verrett. They do not have Richard Sherman anymore. So they have some holes there. And I do think the Philadelphia Eagles are better than the Detroit Lions. And I think they're going to be able to score on them, right? Detroit put 30 on them. So I think Philadelphia is going to be able to do that too. And if they're passing with success, Devonta Smith is going to have success because he is by far their best receiver. I mean, obviously, they still have Jalen Reagor there in Philadelphia, who I think is another sneaky play here if you're in some deeper leagues. But Devonta Smith is someone who week to week is going to have success, just like Jamar Chase. But especially against the San Francisco 49ers defense, I like his matchup. Another rookie, man. This is the week of the rookies. I don't know if it's just a little excitement, getting some killers out here out of the college football that have been kind of balling out already. It just excited me and put him in the week 2 stardoms. But Jaylen Waddle, I'm telling you what, Mike Gesicki, he put up a skunker at 0, and the first thing that came to mind was Bill Belichick. His MO, his entire career has been taking away the X factor of the given offense. It's just what he does. It's what he's always done. And he took Mike Gesicki away because, Tua's best friend is a tight end typically, right? But another X factor on this offense was Jaylen Waddle. And the fact that Bill Belichick has such a close relationship with Nick Saban, who coached Jaylen Waddle, it's hard to believe that Bill Belichick would not have come in with a very strong game plan and focus to shut him down. And he failed because Jaylen Waddle got a touchdown, 60 yards receiving. He looked like he couldn't be stopped. He was by far the best. He was definitely the highlight of this Dolphins offense, which looked kind of sluggish, to be honest. I mean, it's kind of stuck in the mud, but Jaylen Waddle looked just as explosive as we all thought he was going to be when he hit the league. So the fact that he was able to do that against the Patriots defense, I'm expecting a way bigger game against the Buffalo Bills defense. So if you're in a situation where you need a must start of the week, I do think Jaylen Waddle really gives you that upside. And I think the Dolphins are going to improve on the offensive side of the ball this week too. So I am really excited about Jaylen Waddle's future potential, but especially in week 2. Jarvis Landry, not the sexiest pick in the world for sure. This is a guy that got buried in your mock drafts and probably went super late in your drafts as well. Everybody every year just wants to, write Jarvis Landry off, including myself. I mean, I had him in the past 2 years in fantasy football, but this year was the first year I didn't target him. And I kind of wish I did because he's still the same old Jarvis Landry, right? He's Baker Mayfield's best friend. He's going in there. He's catching passes left and right. He's the PPR machine that drives this Cleveland Browns offense. And Odell Beckham's out again week 2. He was out week 1. I see that maybe going forward even farther, but Jarvis Landry is going up against this freaking Houston Texans defense, man. I don't know. All I'm going to say is I think Jarvis Landry is going to have a great opportunity to feast. It parlays quite nicely with another quarterback who I think is going to have a really great week in Baker Mayfield. We'll certainly talk about that more in my must-start quarterbacks of the week, but I do think Jarvis Landry has some of the best opportunities to be one of the best value plays of the week, regardless of position, because the fact of where you could have got Jarvis Landry, he's more than likely your wide receiver 4 on your fantasy football team, and he could have a monster game against the Houston Texans. I also see the Cleveland Browns really trying to lay their foot on the gas pedal because they're pissed off they just lost that game against Kansas City, because I don't think they should have lost that game against Kansas City. They were in the driver's seat all game. And I don't know, man, that Cleveland Browns team, they are tough. They are physical. And I could see them carrying some anger into that game against the Texans and just taking out all their anger on them. Lastly, Tim Patrick. Partially, this is due because my co-host John, he is a massive Broncos fan, as well as this Broncos receiving core. I can't hate on the pick of Tim Patrick here or Cortland Sutton, to be honest. I think both these guys are good plays. The reason I would give the edge to Tim Patrick is Cortland Sutton has shown some injuries all over the offseason, obviously because of last year's injury to his knee, but Cortland Sutton was also limited on his, kind of comeback into week 1. They were limiting his snaps. Tim Patrick's healthy. And Tim Patrick, whenever he's given the chance, has always shown that he can do it. He was actually one of the sneakier receiver options coming into the draft in general, or into this year's fantasy football draft. I mean, John highlighted him in one of his early receiver ranking videos. But yeah, guys, I think Tim Patrick going up against his Jacksonville Jaguars defense or Cortland Sutton is going to be a very attractive option. We just saw the Jaguars get absolutely roasted by the Houston Texans. I think this Broncos offense is a hell of a lot better, and I think they're going to get a chance for each of these guys to have big games. And I see that being something that Tim Patrick is one of the biggest waiver wire pickups of the week in general. But with that said, guys, that's really my must-start wide receivers of the week. I think there's a ton of options here. You've got your other guys too. Like I love Keenan Allen. I love Chris Godwin. I mean, you could talk about that Buccaneers offense in general. I think AB, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin all have fantastic options this week. I really like CeeDee Lamb as well. But I think these are some of the guys that have a little bit more value because they're a little bit deeper in your league that are still going to give you great must starts this week, right? But with that said, guys, I really thank you all for watching. We're on the road to 200 subscribers, guys. So if you enjoyed what you saw today, hit that like button. I encourage you to hit that subscribe button and become part of the Catch fam. And leave some comments below too, right? Let us know what matchups you guys are having on your fantasy teams. Let us know if you want us to help you pick between which receiver to start out of your fantasy football team, between your receivers, your running backs. We don't care. We'll definitely give you some advice for sure. And with that said, guys, thank you so much. You saw it here at the Catch.